Welcome to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping Orange County. With your host, Don Camber.
Hello, live from the OC Talk Radio studios at UCI's Beale Applied Innovation Center. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Don Camber with two great guests positively impacting our community. Today I welcome Global Alzheimer's Platform Foundation 2023 National Citizen Scientist Champion Award recipient Jeannie Weiss. She's living with Alzheimer's disease and has participated in clinical trials and advocates for clinical trial participation in the community. She was nominated by Sorrentis Clinical Research based in Santa Ana. Also joining us is Sorrentis Clinical Research Vice President, Director of Clinical Operations, Dr. Lori Bissesi, who represents Jeannie's care team. Jeannie, congratulations on your award, and thank you for being on Impact OC.
Thank you for having me.
And Dr. Bissesi, thank you for being on Impact OC.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Well, Dr. Bissesi, please explain Sorrentis' relationship with the Global Alzheimer's Platform Foundation and why your organization nominated Jeannie.
Okay. So it's an interesting story. I've been in Alzheimer's clinical research for about 20 years. And I guess it was 9 years ago, 2015, I get a call from a man, John Dwyer. He's the president of GAP, which is the Global Alzheimer's Platform. He explained his vision of basically wanting to cure Alzheimer's. He has a strong family history. I believe at that time he had 7 siblings that were diagnosed, or I believe 2 had already passed at that time. Also aunts and uncles. He's very, very passionate about ending Alzheimer's. He tells me about his vision and wanting to cure Alzheimer's. He introduced me to his right-hand great gal, Cindy. She came over to my office 9 years ago and said that she wanted Sorrentis to be part of the Global Alzheimer's Platform. Now, Georgetown, Princeton, Stanford, these are the universities and hospitals that they have chosen. But they want Sorrentis to be on this platform? I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. What is this? This is too good to be true. Okay, it must be some sort of a scam. What's this going to cost us? You get, as running a company, you get a lot of, opportunities, and then you come to find out it costs $10,000 a month or whatnot. But looked him up, took the meeting, and he explained his family history and that why he is so passionate about advancing research. So we partnered with them, and to this day, we've ran about at least 75 studies in collaboration with GAP. And how GAP partners with us is they help us with day-to-day operations, providing Lyft services, Uber services, long lunches. Jeannie's visits can be 6 hours long, so providing lunch and setting up Netflix, whatever it takes, as Dr. Dwyer would say, get butts in chairs. How do we get volunteers into these studies? What do you need, Lori, to do that at your site? Talk to me. What works? You're in the trenches. Tell me what works. This is the first time in 20 years anybody has asked little Lori over at Sorrentis what works, what is working in the clinical trials. So he has access to go to talk to these big sponsors, the Biogens, the Eli Lillys, Pfizer, all these big companies, and say, you guys want to advance research and you want this to get to market quicker? We need to talk to the sites and see how we can support the sites and support volunteers like Jeannie to get into the clinical trial, but also to spread the word out to the community about her experience. When I was preparing for this, there's many reasons why clinical trials fail. In the 20 years I've been doing Alzheimer's research, there's been over 3,000 clinical trials, not to mention, that's only in the U.S., thousands around the world, and thousands that were not registered. In 20 years, we've only had 2 medications FDA approved. there were 4 medications that were approved: Exelon, Namenda, Aricept. Those ones have been approved for 20 years. But recently we had 2 more approved. But my point is that after all these years and all those trials, we still don't have a cure, and the medications that are approved can only slow the process of dementia down, but it's not a cure. Why do clinical trials fail? Approximately 80% of clinical trials fail because of not being able to recruit volunteers. That's why we're working with GAP. That's why we're working with Jeannie to spread the awareness. Now, Jeannie, she's an advocate. She goes out to the community and she talks to anybody she possibly can at her car events. She was just telling me, the nail lady that did her nails today, hey, you need to join a clinical trial. Hearing it from the horse's mouth, a volunteer that has been participating for the last 3 years, really says something. It's bringing awareness and bringing more volunteers that otherwise would not volunteer just because, oh, Dr. Lori Bassesi said it's something you should do. No, they want to hear it from people experiencing dementia and actually participating.
Well, Jeannie, please explain your Alzheimer's story that led you to participate in clinical trials and encourage others to do the same.
Well, I ended up with 2 major strokes, and when I came home, everything had changed. The world looked white, like it was whitewashed. And we went and had a test taken, found out that I had the beginnings of Alzheimer's, and I said to myself, I can't let it overtake me. So I got on my cell phone and I asked for clinical trials, and up popped Sorrentis. And I called up Sorrentis, and I've been with them ever since.
How do you feel about getting the high honor?
I was amazed, totally amazed and shocked that I had even won anything.
Dr. Bassesi, please explain how someone could get involved with clinical trials and how are they conducted?
So, like Jeannie said, she just searched the internet. You know, she looked up her condition, and then Sorrentis popped up. But you can get involved in many ways by participating in healthy Alzheimer's research. So we just recently conducted a study where we drew blood samples from over 1,000 subjects. They're cognitively normal range. They don't have Alzheimer's, but it's helping us advance biomarkers that can identify Alzheimer's. So you don't have to have dementia to be able to participate in clinical trials. You can be the study partner like her husband is. You can participate in a prevention study by just donating blood. Go on the internet, search the internet for clinical trials. There's a thing called AI these days. I punched it into AI and about 50 different websites came up. So ask your doctor, ask your friends, but basically what Jeannie was saying is just get on with it. Do something, right? Get out there and do something.
Jeannie, what's your clinical trial process?
The process? Well, you get a total makeover. You get your blood pressure, you get your weight, you get testing. Every day they'll test you for something. See how
do they test you?
Well, they give you all these little cards that got names on them and stuff, and you try and remember all these names.
So usually Jeannie and I've done all her cognitive assessments for over the past 3 to 4 years. We usually like to start out with grabbing a cup of coffee, talking about the weekend, mixing our coffee together, and then doing a cheers, and we say, let's get on with it, right?
That's right.
Let's get on with it. Ready?
That's right.
So we sit down and I do a series of cognitive tests, and I show her cards. Please, I'm going to show you some cards one at a time. Please read the card out loud and try to remember it, because at the end, I'm going to ask you to tell me all the cards you can remember. I'll flip the cards, she'll watch, and then she'll tell me all the words that she can remember. We do a lot of drawing tests or remembering steps. And
yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You think of
drawing. Drawing, when I first was testing for Alzheimer's, I couldn't draw it. I could not draw a box.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can remember the whole thing and draw it, just about.
So we don't know if it's because of the clinical trial that
Oh, that
helped.
It did. You could tell. It helped.
Okay, so basically she was under a medication in the clinical trial and it might have done something.
So she's currently in a double-blind study, so we do not know if she's on the study drug or not. However, just the fact that she comes in and, challenges her memory by doing these memory tests with me, she's doing something about it, is changed her way of thinking about attacking this by being more active, going out in the community, talking about it, being more physically active at home. She continues to challenge herself with her cooking and her recipes. So it's a combination of things, but she has stayed stable. So there is a good chance she's on the IP.
Now, it's no secret Orange County has a lot of aging people, and it's just going to grow and grow. So explain the importance of clinical trials to help with the population that's going to develop Alzheimer's.
Yes, it has been a huge problem, and it's going to continue to be a big problem. Some of the statistics, and actually really touched me, because even though I'm in Alzheimer's research and I deal with it day to day, these statistics in front of me really are troublesome. Again, we talked about 20 years, no new medications, only 2. 7 million Americans, according to the last report of the Alzheimer's Association, are living with Alzheimer's. Here, closer to home in Orange County, we have about 165,000 people in just OC alone that suffer from this devastating disease. It's expected to continue to increase if we don't do something about it. I'll talk about some demographics in just a second, but a couple other interesting statistics that kind of hit home. Alzheimer's kills more than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. And in 2000, between the years of 2000 and 2021, deaths from heart disease have decreased by 2.1%, while deaths from Alzheimer's disease have increased by 141%. That gives me chills. That just shouldn't be. We need to be moving in a different direction with this, and we need to get butts in chairs, as Dyer would say, and the GAP platform would say. We need volunteers to advance this. Again, another statistic that, even though I work in Alzheimer's day to day, Black individuals are twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's compared to their white counterparts. I really didn't know that it was twice as likely, and that Hispanics are 1.5 times as likely. But those two are highly underrepresented in clinical trials. It's about 5% of the demographics that participate in clinical trials. So even if we get something approved, it may not work for these other individuals. We just don't know because they're not represented in the study population.
What is known about Alzheimer's disease regarding possible causes?
Even though we have not developed or had more medications FDA approved, we sure have learned a lot about different biomarkers that are associated with an increased risk. By PET scans being developed to look for changes in the brain, looking for certain proteins called amyloid and tau proteins. If you have excess amyloid and tau in the brain, if you have these biomarkers that put you at higher risk, if you have a family history of Alzheimer's, hypertension and high cholesterol also play a role. If all of these things put you at risk, then you're at a higher risk of developing Alzheimer's. So we know more about risk factors today. Now we also know more in today's world how to prevent. So everything's going into prevention. If we know that Jeannie has these risk factors, which we do know. She does have a family history. She did have an elevated PET scan. We do know she has it, and she's also was starting to say my memory's not quite like it used to be. You explained it like foggy,
exactly,
right?
That's right.
You felt foggy. So all those combined, we want to do something in the prevention stages or the early detection. That's where that we can stop it in its tracks. We're really close to that from allowing it to progress. But once it's progressed, we have not found anything to reverse the damage or cure the Alzheimer's.
We'll talk about prevention.
Prevention. Join a clinical trial. Get tested. Have your memory tested. You don't have to join a clinical trial. You can go to your doctor and get tested. But clinical trials, you can do that for free. Be proactive. Just everything you would do for cardiovascular health, you need to do for your brain. But but there's additional things. Know your risk factors. Be cognizant of your memory. You know if you're not as sharp as you used to be, and if you're feeling that, and you've had everything else checked out, but you also have these risk factors. Get into something now and prevent it from becoming a problem. Prevention is key.
How early can you get it detected?
Up to 20 years before you see any symptoms.
And how is it detected?
Through these blood tests, through biomarkers. We can and the PET scans. We can see changes in the brain, and we can detect biomarkers that we can detect those things and changes in the brain up to 20 years before we see any clinical symptoms. So if you know that your PET scan is changing, you have a change in this PET scan, you have the risk factors, your mom had Alzheimer's, your grandma had Alzheimer's, you're at high risk. Get into a clinical trial, and hopefully by that time we have something approved that's in the prevention range, but if not, then join a clinical trial.
Is there an average age someone develops the disease?
I'd say on average around 65, but we've seen 55-year-olds, 50 heads of big pharmaceutical companies coming in, and it does not have its favorites. It's across the board. So,
Jeannie, how are you living with the disease? Any changes you're doing at home to accommodate the fact that you're living with this disease?
No, nothing's changed. I can do anything I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I get up, I dress myself, I make dinner, I make everything. I make cookies, I pass them out to friends. I've taken them to Sorrenta's clinic.
I know Dr. Bassessi's excited because they have a business where they make fruit.
She brings us treats every time, let's just say.
She has a really nice business. But in your own mind, were you surprised that you were diagnosed or not surprised?
No, I was shocked. I really was shocked. And I thought, oh, I can't let it get me down. I got to do something about it. And that's when I started thinking, how am I going to do it? And nobody knew who was running clinical trials at that time. So I just said, well, I'll pull out my cell phone and I'll ask. And the cell phone popped up 5 different ones, and I called up Sorrenta's, and I've been with them ever since.
Now, when you were first diagnosed, do you know a change in your mind from the first time you were diagnosed to where you are now,
yes.
3 years later?
Yes, a big change.
Explain, please.
Well, when you're asked to draw certain things and remember certain names and excess things to get your brain to think, I couldn't do it. Now I can do it. If they want me to draw something and make it look just like what I saw, I can do it. If they don't give me a zillion questions on how many things to remember, I can do that too.
Now, you got a major award because you go out and you promote it.
I do.
Explain how you promote it.
I've promoted it to 3 different car clubs that we belong to. I promote it if I'm standing in line in the grocery store and I'll say, hey, you got any parents, anybody in your family that's got Alzheimer's? I said, well, if you don't, you should have them, get yourself checked.
So,
and I'll tell them about Alzheimer's.
And then I bet everyone's intrigued.
Well, they look at me and they say, well, how do you know? I said, because I have it. And they look at me and they say, well, you just talk like us. And I said, well, yeah, that's because I'm on a clinical trial and I must be getting the juice because I can know what I'm doing.
Now, Dr. Bassessi, wouldn't you say because she's active, keeping her mind involved with clinical trials and getting involved with anything is a plus?
Absolutely.
To try to slow down the process
Absolutely.
if one is diagnosed with that Alzheimer's or not knowing they have Alzheimer's?
Absolutely. That plays a huge role. Being active, whatever that means. If it means that you join another social club and learn how to bake cakes or whatever, but being active, but especially when it comes to your own health and your own... And I find it fascinating that she was only diagnosed 4 years ago, and her psychiatrist or neurologist had nothing for her. Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
It didn't even know what clinic existed. Yeah, so didn't have anything to offer her above and beyond the 4 medications that are on the market. I believe this person maybe said maybe join a clinical trial, but was not able to direct her in any way.
Didn't even know there was a clinical trial.
Didn't know, right?
Yeah.
You found that out.
Well, I had a friend that said, they got clinical trials going on. So that's when I looked up on my phone and I said, is there clinical trials for Alzheimer's? If I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have known about it.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Bassesi, how can people get information about getting involved with clinical trials?
Just like I mentioned, look at the internet, but I think that us as researchers and Jeannie and I teamed and the Global Alzheimer's platform are going to be making a difference to spread the awareness to the communities, to the diverse communities, and also to physicians that this is an option. We're not going to take your patient away from you. Yeah. They need options, and she is a fighter. She's proactive, but she's the rare. I mean, a lot of people suffer and have no hope, don't know where to turn. So we need to spread the awareness, however that may be, through Global Alzheimer's, through this opportunity with you, through sending Jeannie out to wherever Jeannie will let somebody talk to them. She will go.
Right, I go.
Yep.
Explain your process, Jeannie. You go in, when you do a clinical trial, do you go once a week? How often do you go? And what is the process?
No, I think I go, once every two weeks?
She started off for the first couple of years, it was every 2 weeks, and now it's every month.
Every month,
The particular study that she's in is a little more time-consuming than the traditional ones. Her day is about 5 to 6 hours with us, because when she comes in, we do our safety check, and then once Dr. Duffy signs off on that she's approved to get the infusion, our infusion team preps the drug based on her weight. This particular protocol needs her weight to prepare the infusion in the investigational product. Then after she has her infusion, she stays out. Either we do some memory testing in that time frame, depending on the protocol visit, or not. They hang out, they have lunch, they watch Netflix, they take a walk around our little area, the courtyard there, and then they stay for an hour just post-observation for safety. And that's another thing. Yeah. You get very good medical oversight care when you're in a clinical trial.
Yeah.
Now, other studies are not as time-consuming. We have studies that are once every 3 months or once every 6 months. But there is a study for you, whether it's a prevention, I just want to volunteer to help out. I want to volunteer to go with Jeannie to these events. I want to be tested for memory. There's a study for that. We do free memory testing all the time. Or, no, there's clearly something wrong with my brain, and I need the full workup. And through a clinical trial, you get MRIs done, you get PET scans done, you do full medical workup, ruling out other medical conditions, such as, your thyroid being off or whatnot. And then we further explore the, the path of Alzheimer's. But just get moving, get doing it.
Thank you, Global Alzheimer's Platform Foundation 2023 National Citizen Scientist Champion Award recipient Jeannie Weiss, and Sorrentis Clinical Research Vice President, Director of Clinical Operations, Dr. Lori Bassesi, for being on Impact OC. And I thank everyone for tuning in. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber. Have an impactful day.
You've been listening to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping our community. Right here on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.